And away we go. It's only me, and only me. Oh wait, hold on. It's just me, and it's only me. Because Eric's currently at work, so even if he does finish, he won't be able to make it. And as for Risk, I'm not sure what's going on with him, but he says he won't be able to join. Anyway, before getting on to the news, as of this recording, one of Europe's biggest events is taking place this evening. And everyone in Europe, and I mean everyone in Europe, is going to be talking about it. And oh boy, this has to be one of the greatest distractions that's not just ongoing, but also one of the most grandest in its efficacy, execution, and cultural relevance that anyone has ever seen in their lives. I will give them credit for that, because when they first started, it was to it was pretty much the answer to how we're going to progress in the next few years or decades after World War II, and that event was the answer. And many decades later, still going strong and has created so many memories and even big name artists or music groups. So yeah, that just comes to show. It's the final this evening, so we're not sure who won it yet. So maybe in the next episode of either the Lone Show or the Opinionistics, the other podcast I run, we'll find out eventually with the regulars. You know, the people who are usually doing these episodes together. Well, got that out of the way. Let's jump into the news, see whatever shenanigans goes on in our reality. Arab leaders promised to work on reconstruction of Gaza and again press for a ceasefire. We've been through this many, many times. Just get it over with. At this point, I don't even care who started what, what's the history behind it. I think a lot of people, even on both sides, they just want this to stop. And this is not down to the people who have lost their lives fighting for their sides, as well as the people who are held hostage as some kind of bargaining chip. I think in general, people are just sick and tired of this, myself included. And I've said it many times, and I cannot stress enough how much I just want this to stop. But even then, something like this is still going to continue because A, it's a slow news day, and B, what is there for people to talk about? Because not everyone's into technology or natural disasters, whatever the heck was going on between Trump and the Musk man. Actually, I'm not calling him that again. It's just, I'm just gonna call him Elon Musk. Musk man is just, ugh. But anyway, and also it is also war, as much people don't like to say it. It is profitable in the sense that people have to buy weaponry and vehicles to fight in this war or whatever conflict that is going on. I understand whatever profits that go into it and the money people make out of it, but it's still wrong. And even when people don't want this to happen, it's still going to happen anyway. The best we can do is just find an alternative for such actions like this. But yeah, just want something to be done about this. Eventually. Crystal Palace celebrate historic FA Cup win after victory over Manchester City. Now, of course, I don't talk about soccer football often on podcasts, but wow. Congratulations, Crystal Palace. Not many people think they would do it, but they did. And what a celebration that would be. And it is, right now. So, congratulations, Crystal Palace. Enjoy it while it lasts, because we're not going to know when they're going to win the next title. Maybe it could be like Tottenham, maybe it'll be decades until you win your next title, so who knows? Congratulations and enjoy while it lasts. 14 people dead after tornado hits southeastern Kentucky. A powerful tornado hit southeastern Kentucky late on May 16th, 2025, killing 14 people and causing widespread destruction. The tornado touched down around 2 p.m. and carved a destructive path through multiple locations, including Laurel and Pulaski counties. Emergency responders are actively searching for survivors amid severe damage to homes, power lines, and overturned vehicles in affected areas. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear confirmed 14 fatalities, and officials have established shelters to support residents displaced by what authorities have labeled a large-scale emergency. The fatality count may rise as recovery continues, and authorities urge public donations to aid storm victims at South Laurel High School. Such natural disasters like this are just never good. Nothing good ever comes out of natural disasters like this. And I know for certain, if Risk was here right now, he's gonna say something along the lines of, the government is manipulating the weather to cause these disasters on purpose. So the government has spent millions or billions of dollars to repair said damages. Now I'm not gonna fully agree with him with that, but how can I argue against it? I mean, there's always a cost for such damages and disasters to happen. And at some point in our lives, there has to be hardships. There has to be a moment in our lives where we have to overcome the struggles and become stronger people. Again, I'm not saying we should have I'm not saying we should have natural disasters often. That should never be the case. It is awful. But when it does happen, there is lessons to be learned, and people will become stronger people from overcoming such struggles. But other than that, rest in peace to those 14 people and that southeastern Kentucky tornado. For those families of those victims, I send my condolences to them. It's very, very sad. Kathy Lee Gifford shares big update about her dating life. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on. I'm just laughing for whatever reason. Okay, let's see where this goes. Kathy Lee Gifford, a 71-year-old TV host, announced in May 2024 that she and her unnamed ex split after nearly 3 years together but remains friends. Fair enough, good for them. The breakup followed a relationship Gifford expected to be her last and the love of her life, occurring nearly 10 years after her husband, Frank Gifford, died. Gifford described her continued friendship with her ex as positive and emphasized that she isn't currently interested in dating. She expressed openness to find someone new if it happens naturally, and mentioned that living as a widow is not something she advises unless one harbors strong negative feelings towards their late spouse. Gifford's remarks suggest she remains open to new possibilities, but she focuses on maintaining joy and taking life one day at a time. How can anyone argue with that? We all look for love in our lives. When you lose someone, it's awful. It really is awful. However, it just happens. And like I said with the tornado in Kentucky, there are points in our lives where you have to go through hardships. And by overcoming those hardships and struggles, we become stronger people each and every single day. But otherwise, hopefully, Gifford finds happiness in other ways, whether it be, hobbies with her show, if she's still hosting, and possibly a third thing, which I can't think of right now. But I think that's about it. Hopefully, all goes well for everyone, including Kathy. North Korea's Kim oversees air drills, calls for stepped-up war preparations. On Saturday, May 17th, 2025, Kim Jong-un oversaw Air Force exercises in Pyongyang and emphasized the importance of enhancing military readiness. This event follows Kim's May inspections of missile tests, tanks, and munitions plants, and reaffirmation of the alliance with Russia during a rare embassy visit. Kim called on all military units to achieve a breakthrough in war preparation amid increasing hostility attributed to the United States, according to North Korean state media. A spokesperson for North Korea's foreign ministry warned that continued hostile and counterproductive actions by the United States will only deepen the unresolvable tensions between the two countries. North Korea condemned the the U.S. State Department's ongoing listing of the DPRK as a non-cooperative country in counterterrorism since 1997, stating it will take effective measures against these provocations. Well, I'm not encouraging it. I will not defend it. However, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta defend the people. Stick it to the big man, you know? Not that I want it, but it's gonna happen. Just gotta do what you gotta do. But otherwise, hopefully something is to be resolved. The last thing I want to see is violence, destruction, chaos, and destruction again, and so on and so forth. It's madness. You may gain something out of it, but it's not in the long term. It's gonna run out eventually. And at some point, like myself, people want it to stop. Because it may have short-term gains, but it has long-term pains. And also, long-term setbacks, because you never know, it will actually cause more harm than it would good. Like, as if it was anything good to begin with, which is not. Mexico sues Mr. Beast's media firm over Maya Temple video. Oh boy. Here we go again. On May 10th, Mr. Beast, the YouTube creator with the largest following worldwide, released a video documenting his visits to several of Mexico's prominent archaeological sites, including Chichen Itza and Calakmul. The visit took place following official approvals requested by Mexico's national tourism authorities, along with the state governments of Yucatan and Campeche, rather than being initiated by Mr. Beast himself, leading to controversy over access to protect. The video features Mr. Beast and his team inside restricted locations such as cenotes and areas near the Temple of Kukulkan, some of which are typically closed to general visitors, but were accessed under the supervision of INAH officials. INAH stated, the video contains distorted information, clarifying that events like helicopter descents and overnight stays did not happen, and described the mask shown as a modern reproduction. The Mexican government confirmed permits were granted, but the permits' details remain unknown, and cultural authorities promised appropriate sanctions if rules were violated, while acknowledging the video may inspire interest in ancestral cultures. So, all I'm getting is Mr. Beast and his team went to see some sites of Mexico from the Mayan times. However, what was described in whatever video, I haven't watched Mr. Beast in a while, so I can't be too sure what was said. But whatever it is, it had to be something that gets to the point that how many sources? Oh my gosh, 136 news sources are making this story. How? How on earth can someone make a big deal about what some big name celebrity is doing in another country? Yes, of course, there's going to be people that are interested in what he is doing, but not 136 news sources making a story on this. Like, there are other stories that are much more important, or at least just as important, like natural disasters or whatever actions world leaders are going on, although people may not like that, but however, we still have to know what's going on. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So that we are prepared for the unexpected. It's a lot for me to say on that, but there's other things going on. Like, if this is what people are arguing about, good grief, get a freaking grip. There are other things to talk about. They just don't want to talk about it. Whether it be out of the organization's interest, or if they believe a story may not get as much interest as they think it would. But it's still important to at least say something about it for those who are interested in such stories. Now, Eddington ignites an already politically charged Cannes Film Festival. The film Eddington, directed by Ari Esther and starring Joaquin Phoenix, premiered at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival and depicts a fictional New Mexico town amid 2020 America's turmoil. Eddington explores a small-town feud that expands to reflect nationwide issues, including mask mandates, George Floyd's death, and political polarization during the COVID era. Joaquin Phoenix plays Joe Cross, a sheriff running for mayor against Pedro Pascal's incumbent. While pressures from protests and personal history intensify the history's tension, critics responded diversely at Cannes, with some praising the film's dark satire and accuracy, while others found it tedious. The reception included a lukewarm standing ovation. Dear. Addington set for US release in July 2025 by A24, signals Esther's most politically ambitious work and highlights the fractured and toxic social climate of contemporary America. Yep, 2020, the COVID era. Those were the days. Don't want to see something like that happen again, but when it did happen, it just hit different. It just feels nostalgic, you know? Again, physical aspects were pretty bad at that time, but if it was a point in time we're all in the same space. We were all in the same boat. Well, like, unless you're a millionaire, billionaire, or have lots of money where you can just do nothing and don't have to worry about a 9 to 5 job. Otherwise, there was some unity coming from that. Although, at some point it will come back around and bite them in the bum. In all the worst ways possible. Well, I'm not sure how he's gonna do, but I know people. Actually, I don't think it's gonna get too much social media attention. But for those who are interested, I think they're gonna be interested. They're gonna be intrigued by what goes on in that film. So, I'll give them that. Something's gonna happen. People are gonna say something about it. Then it'll go onto social media and leave it at that. And then the rest was history. Prussia mounts to relocate orcas and dolphins from closed French marine park. Two captive orcas, Wiki aged 23 and her 11-year-old son, Hazel, remain trapped in the closed marineland Antibes near Cannes since January 2025. Marineland shut due to a 2021 French law banning cantation shows, and despite seeking alternatives, French authorities have rejected relocation proposals, including sites in Japan and Tenerife. Activists and a minimal staff maintain the animals in algae-filled pools with little mental stimulation, warning that deteriorating conditions pose serious risks to the orca's welfare. French Ecology Minister Ons Pannier and campaigners dressed urgency to find a European sanctuary, but none currently exists. While the Whale Sanctuary project offers a Canadian site as the only prepared option, the ongoing failure to rehouse Wiki and Casual leaves them confined in failing enclosures, underscoring urgent needs for temporary care solutions until a permanent sanctuary is established. It's quite unfortunate, and I don't usually pay attention to animals and anything relating to how they live, where they are, and other aspects of people watching animals do stuff, but this is pretty bad. If there isn't a place for these animals to enjoy whatever lives they have left, they're just swimming about in a tank doing nothing, and there's nothing that the staff can do to facilitate or provide for their welfare. It's ridiculous. They could at least try and do something about it. And even though the people have said they are doing something, it's just not enough. And again, I'm not in. I don't usually pay attention to that kind of stuff, but from what I just read, it's just at best, it's just inefficient management. At worst, they're just leaving animals to just suffer and just swim about doing nothing all day. I hope this gets resolved soon, and whatever home they'll be in, it'll be much better than where they're currently at. So sad. Palm tree falls on a person at Cannes Film Festival. A palm tree fell on a man walking along the Boulevard de la Croisette in Cannes on May 17th, 2025, during the 78th Annual International Film Festival. Strong winds caused the 3-meter-high palm tree to topple midday, prompting immediate emergency response amidst festival crowds. A man was found bleeding from a head injury on the sidewalk near a prominent beach venue along the Cannes Croisette, where pedestrians and emergency responders came to his aid. City officials reported that the injury was minor and assured that efforts to take down the tree and reopen the walkway for all pedestrians will be carried out promptly. Authorities closed a section of the Croisette to clear the fallen tree, which highlights safety concerns during the ongoing festival scheduled until May 20. Firstly, I really hope the man is alright, because bleeding head injury, that is gruesome. If there's pictures, I would be horrified. That's awful. It's so sad. I hope the lad is alright and something is to be taken care of. But oh man, that just sounds awful. No one should ever go through that. It just hits them when they least expect it. Microsoft says it provides AI to Israeli military for war, but denies use to harm people in Gaza. We'll see about that. Microsoft confirmed that it has supplied advanced AI and cloud computing solutions to Israel's armed forces amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza, including a $133 million contract and a significant increase in usage following the October 7th, 2023 attacks. The provision followed the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, after which the Israeli military escalated its use of Microsoft Azure and OpenAI technology from mass surveillance and intelligence activities. Microsoft stated its internal and external reviews found no evidence of technologies were used to harm people in Gaza, despite employees' protests, scrutiny from rights groups, and reports of extensive civilian deaths. The Israeli military's Azure system reportedly stores over 13.6 petabytes of data and transcribes communications, enabling expanded military operations, while Microsoft emphasized responsible AI use and oversight in its contract. Microsoft's role has sparked internal dissent and external criticism, with employee groups demanding transparency and questioning ethics, as deaths in Gaza and Lebanon exceeded 50,000 amid allegations of genocide and apartheid practices. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad. And whatever they're saying to say that in our defense, we were not too sure that was going to happen, and we were pretty sure that we advise against using technology like that to be used for such actions. Then why are we hearing about this? Why are we hearing about this anyway? It sounds like they've already done it anyway. So how on earth are they going to explain that? And even they do have a very good case, it's still not looking good for Microsoft. Well, they're still going to survive in the next few decades, but this is going to be sealed in the history books. People will talk about this at some point in history class, to some extent, and people are just like, why? That is fucked up. And it is fucked up. But not many people are going to give a damn about it, because it doesn't involve them. They're not in Gaza. They're not witnessing the horrors that is the conflict. If that was the case, it would be a different story. They would be like me. I want that to stop. I want the conflict to stop. Even though it may not be there now. I think a lot of people have had enough of this. And no matter how many times I say, I will say it again. And if people have disagreements with what I'm saying, well, to be honest, I'm actually speechless when thinking about that. But that's just me. I can't imagine who on earth want to keep this going for another decade or two, despite the fact that there is nothing else to gain from conflicts like this. Honestly, it has to stop. There will have to come a point that it will come to an end and we can live our lives peacefully. Now, another conflict somewhere else in the world will happen again, in another country, or in a different part of the world, but it's just no one should ever have to go through that. It was not anyone's choice to even be a part of it to begin with. It just happened. It's all part of the so-called plan. What's the plan? Like heck they're gonna know. They're just going along with what brings in the moolah, the big cheese. It may be a useful tool, but that doesn't mean people should try and make their goal to get as much of it as possible. That is not a good way to live life. It really isn't. Decorated Australian veteran loses his defamation appeal over killings in Afghanistan. Ben Robert Smith, Australia's most decorated living war veteran, his appeal against a 2023 civil court ruling in Sydney on Friday. The appeal challenged a defamation judgment that found Robert Smith unlawfully killed 4 Afghan prisoners after newspaper articles published in 2018 made war crime allegations. A panel of 3 federal judges upheld Justice Bisanko's 2023 decision, confirming that the allegations were proven substantially true under the civil standard and dismissing the appeal. The ruling stated Robert Smith killed 4 of 6 unlawfully killed Afghans, so he has not faced criminal charges, which require proof beyond reasonable doubt. Robert Smith plans to seek a High Court appeal, while calls emerge from his SAS peers to strip him of his Victoria Cross for gallantry in Afghanistan. I've said this a couple times, but I will say it again. Whatever was going on in Afghanistan shouldn't have happened to begin with. This is the reason why a lot of problems in this world comes around conflicts. Now, it's good. So it will happen at some point, but to have intervention or involvement, just no. And when people do get involved, why are they getting involved? What do they gain from being part of that? And this is exactly why we should question. If Western nations like the UK, US, France, Russia, whatever big nation with a massive military are doing, why are they getting involved in this to begin with? Trump has said many times that the US should not get involved in these conflicts. You know, I actually agree with that. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I agree with not getting involved in conflicts. Leave the nations in question to deal with this on their own. There is no need for any other intervention. It just causes a lot more problems than it solves. You know, actually, thinking about it, I was having tea with my dad, and usually we will watch BBC News, see what goes on in the world. But at this, as of this recording, this evening, my dad said, "Out of it, out of it, I'm going to watch the news because we all know what's going, and because we know what's the news they're going to talk about." And I'm not saying that's the same case with the regulars, Eric and Risk, but of course, yeah, if you connect the dots just a bit, it will eventually add up, and not in the way you would expect, but it does make sense. Somehow. Newsom rolls back $20 million for California newsrooms to reduce budget deficit. Governor Gavin Newsom of California proposed reducing the state's funding for local newsrooms by 67%, lowering the planned contribution from $30 million to $10 million for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. The reduction in newsroom funding is part of broader efforts to address a projected $12 billion deficit in California's budget for the coming fiscal year. California's state legislature has until June 15th to pass revisions to the budget. Although I don't have much to say about California, I've made it very clear many times that I'm against the many things that go on in California. And this is not about what, and I'm not talking about the culture or whatever the politics goes on in California. It's just the decisions to the way of life. Like, California has very high taxes. Like, when Californians do pay those taxes, where does that money go towards? I don't hear much about that. I don't hear about where Californian tax money goes towards to better the lives of Californians. And I've also heard that many businesses and many residents of California are moving out of the state to neighboring states like Nevada, New Mexico, possibly Oregon, because they're somewhat similar in some way. At least Cal and Oregon are somewhat similar to each other. Yeah, I don't have much to say about California, but from what I've heard about California over the years, I don't agree with whatever's going on there. And this isn't about, I'm not talking about whatever parties in power for the state. It's more about the decisions that people make regarding their livelihoods and society, or how people live in California. And it's so bad, people are moving out of California. It's just ridiculous. And if at any point I want to live in the United States, I would try to avoid California. Now, I would visit California if it comes to my acting career, but I would not consider even living there, like, at any point, until whatever problems are going on in that state are resolved. Especially the tax rates. Like, the tax they pay is absolutely ridiculous. It's just outrageous. But that's just me. There are surely some people that would still move to California despite the taxes or whatever other problems are going on, especially the looting around San Francisco. Man, that's a disaster. Rogue Chinese communication devices were found within solar panels and wind turbines in the United States, according to a new report on Wednesday. Tech experts warn the use of rogue devices gives China the capability to operate the equipment remotely and potentially sabotage the United States and other countries' power grids. The US Department of Energy is reportedly reviewing the discovery of the rogue devices, but the number of devices found and how widespread the problem is has not been disclosed. Now that is interesting. That is not something I would have known sooner. And if that is the case, how? How on earth would that be possible? What, did they just slip these tracking devices within the solar panels and give them to America? Wouldn't America even check the solar panels to begin with before they go ahead with putting it in place to ensure they're not being spied on? Man, security within the US is just so embarrassing. If there is one. If there isn't, that's even worse. No wonder we're getting stories like this. And no wonder the US are lacking behind in many things. Such as, well, my first thought I was going to go with farming, because reports says China has bought a couple of farming land, and of course, technology. I mean, China, Japan, South Korea, miles ahead of the United States with that one, with technology. But man, and people in the United States and even the US government, they still question, how is it that our stuff in the US is not as good as what's going on in Asia? You're spilling the beans to them and you don't even notice that. That's just embarrassing, man. You gotta step up your game. Or at least do what they did to you. Try and set up some tracking devices or devices of tracking data in your own products. Send them over to China and try and spy on them and try and get someone that can then translate Mandarin to English and vice versa. So they can understand what they're saying. And then use that to your advantage. But no one's going to do that because all people in the United States care about is protecting their own national interests or anything that is a threat to their national security. I can't argue. Well, I can't argue with that. I understand and respect it. But that cannot be the only thing on their minds. That shouldn't be the only thing on their mind. They have to step up their game and find ways to get over the hedge, get a curve in the game. It's just not enough. Nor will it ever be enough. You gotta keep going for who knows how long you get to live your life for. It's just non-stop. You gotta pick up the pace. A Georgia family says they're legally not allowed to take a brain-dead pregnant woman off life support because of the state's abortion law. They say the woman, who was declared brain dead in February and is now 21 weeks pregnant, will be kept alive until the fetus can survive on its own at around 32 weeks. Under Georgia law, abortion is banned after 6 weeks except in cases where the mother or baby's life are in danger, or in cases of rape or incest that have been reported to police. Interesting. Really, that's a lot to think about. I don't usually talk about abortion, not just because I'm not a woman, but it's the discussion itself is just very complicated to get into. Whilst I understand, like in cases of rape or incest, fair enough, I can't argue with that. But otherwise, well, other than cases of rape or in danger of the baby or the mother, what other reason would there have to be? And I'm not saying I'm against it. It's just what? Now, it may sound awful to many people that support abortion, but the concerns I have, in my opinion, is if abortion does go ahead, will that impact the woman having children again if she decides she does want to have children again? That's my concern. I'm not too against or pro abortion. It's just concerns about if the woman wants to have children, would she able to have it? But the first question is, does she want it to have children to begin with? And that's completely their choice. They can decide if they want children or not. They can live their lives or start a family at whatever point in their lives they want to. I'll give them that. That's as much as I can say about this. Not because of how complicated it is to discuss it. It's just I know people that have one opinion that say they should go ahead with abortion, and I know some people that are fully against abortion at all, like in general. So that is all I know. And whatever happens, and what people decide, Hopefully, families are to be created, and people can live their lives happily and peacefully. That is all I ask for. Whatever complicated situation goes on, that's all I ask is going to happen in the aftermath. A Mexican citizen faces terrorism charges for allegedly aiding the Jalisco New Generation cartel by trafficking arms, drugs, and migrants, according to U.S. prosecutors. Navarro Sanchez was arrested by Mexican authorities on May 4, 2025, according to the U.S. Attorney General's office. This indictment is the first against a Mexican national for providing materials material support to a foreign terrorist organization. Acting U.S. Attorney Margaret Leachman emphasized that the charges send a monumental message about U.S. law enforcement committing to combating organized crime. Well, there's not much of I don't have a strong opinion, but I also whatever I can say about it is such. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm certainly not saying it's a bad thing. I think it just needs to be handled correctly. Because of course, cartels in Mexico are. Now, I'm not saying that bad. I'm not going to say that bad because I'm concerned for my life if I ever go to Mexico. It's just concerns about. Yeah, it's just me out of curiosity. How do people in Mexico live their lives? Through operations through the cartel. Like, what happens if you spoke against the cartels? That's just something I've always wondered. Because I heard so much about them. But I always wondered, how do they op? And given the presence and operations they have across Mexico, or parts of Mexico, how much of their lives is impacted from that? And how much of a difference would Mexican lives have living in Mexico if the cartels weren't there? I'm not speaking out against the cartels. I'm just curious about their presence, their operation, and what would life in Mexico be like if they weren't a thing? But surely people in Mexico, or people living in Mexico, would have something to say about that. But for now, in my opinion, it's just a mystery. And regarding the arrest, well, drugs, they're very bad. I can't argue against that. I don't know what people are thinking beyond drugs to begin with. You may get something good in the short term, but the long term, oh boy, you're gonna be hit by a ton of bricks. It's gonna hurt you so badly in ways that you can't even imagine. It will hurt you so badly. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Lamy says UK-US working to ensure enduring India-Pakistan ceasefire dialogue. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy visited Islamabad on May, on May 16th, 2025 to support efforts for a lasting ceasefire between India and Pakistan. The visit followed weeks of missile exchanges after a deadly Kashmir attack that escalated tensions and included India suspending the Indus Water Treaty. Lamy praised the leader's statesmanship in de-escalating conflict while urging adherence to treaty obligations and ongoing dialogue with the United States support. He stated the ceasefire is hugely welcome but remains fragile, emphasizing that terrorism must be addressed and water treaty commitments honored. The diplomatic initiative suggests sustained international collaboration aims to prevent further escalation and build confidence between these nuclear-armed neighbors. Well, one thing I'll certainly say, I'm glad that there is progress, there is a ceasefire, and world leaders are actually talking about ways to bring peace to their regions. That's great to hear and great to see. But of course, we don't know what's going to happen after the ceasefire. Because remember, when people ask for a ceasefire, they're asking the militaries of both sides to stop the fighting. Once the ceasefire ends, that gives both sides' militaries the freedom to continue fighting. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people want that, ever. So, great. It's great to hear that there is progress with bringing peace and de-escalating whatever situation is going on. Fantastic. And I know I've already said this, however, I'll say it again. If this is a land dispute, and the people that live in such and the people that live in said disputed land are the ethnicities of both nations, why don't you just let that disputed land become its own independent nation? But of course, there are tricky implications of that. Because what if one side manages to take advantage of taking over the disputed land entirely, and then it just becomes part of that one nation, hands down, and there's nothing anyone can do about that? Just like with Crimea. I don't think a lot of people want to talk about that. But I'm saying, if that was the case, there are complications and controversies that will certainly arise from that. There is nothing that people could ever do about that. So that's just me. Hopefully, this continues. There's more progress, and of course, we just continue to live our lives peacefully and harmoniously. Absolutely. Real Madrid signed Spain defender Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth. Of course they did. Real Madrid signs 20-year-old Spain international Dean Huijsen from Bournemouth on a 5-year contract. Through June 20, joined Bournemouth that summer from Juventus after initially choosing Italy to develop his defensive skills among historic centre-backs. The defender made 33 appearances under Adondi Iraola, earned 2 Spain caps, and attracted interest from Premier League clubs including Liverpool, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Real Madrid triggered Huijsen's £50 million release clause, with the player giving near immediate approval to the move, as Madrid sought to rebuild defence after a trophyless 24-25 season. Now, Premier League football, soccer football, whatever you want to call it, all I can say is soccer football clubs in the Premier League, they have so much money. They can use that money to buy whatever the best players they want, and they will certainly get. And for whatever reason, those Premier League club players don't perform so well for all those clubs in the Premier League, they can just go to another club, preferably in the top 5 UEFA leagues, like Spain, France, Germany, or Italy. And by the time they arrive in those leagues, oh my gosh, they are absolute wonders. They are absolutely legendary, they say. And for the most part, they are. That's mostly true. But the issue is, the standard of the Premier League is so high that the moment a very talented player arrives at a club in the Premier League, they just struggle to meet up with the standard, because the playing style in the Premier League, it's not about the skills or techniques. You just got to have enough energy to keep up with the other players, and you got to always pay attention to all of your surroundings. Because if you have none of that, you're gonna do terribly in the Premier League. Now, for other leagues like in Spain, Italy, Germany, France, top flight, you just gotta have good skills. You just have to be talented and nothing else. But in the Premier League, you have enough energy and stamina to keep up with the other players. And of course, you need to pay attention to your surroundings, because for in a single nanosecond, you do not pay attention, boom, you're getting pushed over to the sidelines. Or the opposing team just snaps the ball out of your feet. So yeah, that's pretty much the Premier League in a nutshell. It's not just about the talent anymore. You just gotta have the stamina and the attentiveness and other related factors. But yeah, mental, absolutely wild. Musk's XAI updates Grok chatbot after white genocide comments. Of course they did. I think they had to. They didn't have much of a choice. Elon Musk's XAI responded to widespread reports that its Grok chatbot made claims about a genocide against white citizens in South Africa, saying there had been an unauthorized change to the artificial intelligence bot. In a post on X on Thursday, XAI said it would update the system to address the problem. Issues of political biases, hate speech, and accuracy of AI chatbots have been a concern since its late censorship of OpenAI's ChatGPT in 2022. Now, usually, no, not usually. In cases like this, in certain cases like this, I would try to get an understanding what Elon Musk is going on about with all this. But over time, realizing what's been going on with him joining Trump doing government efficiency stuff, something like that, whatever. In my opinion, he just lost the plot. He did say that he wants to be the side of the people, but he can't. A while back, he did say that, and it is true. Part of him really wants to be the voices of the people, but for all the attention that this man is getting, there's a price to pay, and that price is to be involved with particular groups of people with high influence, and of course, the price of showcasing dumb shenanigan nonsense that gets news headlines. Now, if it gets people talking, then fair play. And I'm not saying I would defend him now. I'm just saying there was a time when Elon Musk isn't some kind of right-wing grifter or someone who has right-wing beliefs would have such negative reputation. Because of course I understand people is entitled to their own opinions, and I know a few people that do not like Musk, and they have every right to do so. I'll allow them to have whatever opinions they have against Musk, because everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and everyone is allowed to say what they want to say. But many years ago, when I've heard of Elon Musk, I've known him as this cool electric guy that's sending rockets to space and making cool vehicles like the Tesla cars or the Cyber trucks. Okay, maybe not the Cyber truck, but I think there was a semi lorry that he made. In my opinion, I think it has a very sleek design. I like the sleek design, but it would be nice to have some kind of ornated detail, in my opinion. Times have changed. So do opinions about other people. Whilst I can't say that, although I can't say with Elon Musk, hopefully all goes well, there is more than what the headlines say. There is something missing, but we won't be able to hear about it until it's too late. But that does not mean go and support the guy. Don't do that. Because why would you? That's all I'm saying. But of course, times were different back then, when everyone liked the guy, and he wasn't expressing his opinions. Which is part of the reason why people don't like him right now. I think life is better when people don't express their political opinion. Even if they do have a point. Not to say people should. I'm not saying people should agree with them, but people on whatever side of whatever aisle, they can make a point, which at least gets people thinking. But even then, I don't think people should express their political opinion publicly. But I'm not against. If people still want to do that, I can't stop them. They can continue to do that, but in my opinion, if you have opinion about something which you know a lot of people aren't going to agree with you on, or if an opinion is going to make people triggered, then just don't say it. That's at least what I try to do. I may have bias, I may have an opinion, but that doesn't mean I should tell that to everyone, because they may not agree with it, and that's okay. Otherwise, GrokX, I hope you learn your lesson. Although I can't argue much about whatever the event that the chatbot in question is talking about, don't mention that to everyone, because not many people aren't going to be too interested, nor they want to hear it over and over again. It's going to get old if it's put to people's faces many, many times. I've learned that the hard way. Just stick to what is relevant, and stick to answering people's questions to the best of their ability. Don't just say stuff because you can. For a chatbot, say something because it's useful. Because that is why it's designed to begin with. And yeah, with that being said, that is us. That is the episode.